The world is full of amazing buildings that seem to defy time and common sense. Some of them rise above deserts and jungles, others are hidden in the mountains or underground, but they are all united by one thing. Their secret has still not been solved. People built them thousands of years ago without modern technology, and today we can only guess how they managed to do it. These structures have become a source of legends, fears, and conjectures, keeping within themselves mysteries that change our understanding of history. Machu Picchu. Hidden away in the Andes, among the clouds that blanket the green peaks, lies a city that has remained invisible to prying eyes for centuries. Machu Picchu has been called the lost city of the Incas, but that name only underlines how little we know about its true purpose. The ruins rise more than 2,000 meters above sea level, as if specially built so that people of the future would have difficulty finding them. Since its discovery in the early 20th century, archaeologists and researchers have not come to a consensus on why the Incas built this city in such an inaccessible place. The main mystery of Machu Picchu is its architecture. The huge stone blocks that make up the walls fit together so perfectly that it is impossible to insert even a knife blade between them. These stones are not held together with mortar, but despite this, they have withstood centuries of earthquakes, rains, and winds. Modern engineers acknowledge that such technology requires knowledge and skills that are not easy to replicate even today. The question arises: how could a civilization without iron tools and wheel mechanisms achieve such precision? There is a version that Machu Picchu was not a city, but a sacred center where only the chosen ones were allowed. Important religious ceremonies dedicated to the sun and moon, heavenly gods and ancestors could take place here. This is evidenced by the temples and ritual sites located in the center of the complex. The so-called Intihuatana, a stone that is often called a sundial, attracts special attention of scientists. It is carved with such geometric precision that researchers believe it could have been used to track the sun and predict the changing seasons. But there are even bolder hypotheses. Some believe that the stone was a kind of energy device connected to the invisible forces of the earth and space. No less mysterious is the question of why the city was abandoned. When the Spanish conquistadors captured the lands of the Incas, they did not even know of Machu Picchu's existence. It seemed to have disappeared from the memory of the people who built it. Why was it necessary to hide such a colossal structure? Was it a measure of protection from enemies, or did something happen here that forced the inhabitants to leave forever? Today, Machu Picchu is perceived not only as an archaeological site, but also as a place of power. Thousands of tourists and pilgrims climb here every year to walk along ancient stone paths and touch the mystery of the past. Many claim to feel a special energy from this place, a slight tremor, an unusual surge of strength, a sense of oneness with nature. These stories only reinforce the idea that Machu Picchu was built not just as a city or fortress, but as a portal to the world of spirits and gods. And while scientists continue to examine every terrace, every stone, many questions remain unanswered. Who exactly was the architect of this city? Why do its walls seem to resist time? And why, after so many centuries, does it continue to excite the imagination of people around the world? Machu Picchu remains a symbol of mystery, a reminder that human history is much more complex and profound than we are accustomed to thinking. Stonehenge. On the plains of Wiltshire, England, among soft green hills and winds blowing from the Atlantic, stands a stone circle that has become one of the most mysterious structures of antiquity. Stonehenge is known to everyone from photographs and tourist postcards, but its true purpose remains the subject of heated debate to this day. These massive stones, arranged in perfect geometric shapes, seem to contain a code that humanity has not yet deciphered. Stonehenge is impressively old. Scientists believe that it was built about 5,000 years ago in the Neolithic period. But how people of that era were able to lift and move boulders weighing up to 30 tons is a question that still has no clear answer. Some of the stones were brought from Wales, a journey of over 200 kilometers through rivers, swamps, and forests. Even modern technology would have required a huge effort for such an undertaking. But the ancient builders managed it, as if they were aided by a force we know nothing about. The placement of the stones is also strikingly precise. The central circle is built so that during the summer and winter solstices, the sun's rays fall directly into the passages between the stones, forming an axis by which the change of seasons could be predicted. This suggests that Stonehenge was not just a shrine or a place of assembly, but an astronomical instrument designed to observe the sky. But if you think about it, another question arises. Why did ancient farmers need such precise calculations? Was there more to it than just determining the time for sowing and harvesting? Many researchers have put forward hypotheses. Some see Stonehenge as an ancient observatory, created to observe the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Others believe that it served as a place of rituals associated with life and death. Burials are found in the surrounding area, which speaks of the sacred nature of this place. There is even a version that Stonehenge was a kind of gate between the worlds of the living and the dead, a place where priests communicated with spirits and gods. There are also mystical theories. Some argue that such a complex structure could not have been built by ordinary people, which means that the builders were inspired by knowledge obtained from outside. Perhaps Stonehenge is associated with myths about ancient gods who descended from heaven, or with travelers from distant civilizations who left a trace behind. Today, Stonehenge remains a symbol of mystery. Tourists flock here on solstices to see the first rays of the sun breaking through the stone corridor, as if reviving the ancient mechanism. Many claim to feel an unusual power when standing near the stones. This feeling cannot be measured by instruments, but it is passed down from generation to generation, turning Stonehenge into something more than just an archaeological site. Whether it is an observatory, a temple, or a portal to other worlds, Stonehenge reminds us that the past holds secrets that can change our understanding of history. And perhaps that is its greatest mystery. Pyramid of Cheops. On the Giza Plateau, under the scorching Egyptian sun, stands a structure that has remained the most famous symbol of ancient mysteries for over 4,000 years. The Great Pyramid of Cheops is the only one of the 7 wonders of the world that has survived to this day. It amazes not only with its size, but also with the number of questions that still have no convincing answers. The pyramid was built around the 26th century BC. Its height initially reached almost 150 meters, and the weight of individual stone blocks exceeds tens of tons. In total, about 2.5 million stones were used to build it, and each of them was perfectly matched to the neighboring one. Modern engineers admit that repeating such a construction, even with the latest technology, would be a colossal task. But the ancient Egyptians managed without the technology that we consider necessary for such projects. The main mystery is how this was done. There are many versions, from the use of a complex system of ramps to hypotheses about special tools and mechanisms that were lost. But none of these theories gives a complete answer. Scientists are still arguing because archaeological evidence explaining the process itself has not been found. No less surprising is the precision of the pyramid's placement. Its sides are oriented to the cardinal points with a minimal error, which is difficult to explain without complex astronomical knowledge. Moreover, some researchers claim that the pyramid's proportions contain mathematical and geometric secrets. The number pi and the golden ratio are allegedly encrypted in its base. This makes one wonder, was it just a tomb for the pharaoh, as official history claims, or did it perform another, more complex function? Inside the pyramid is a system of corridors and chambers, many of which have not yet been explored. The most famous of these is the royal tomb, but the sarcophagus inside is empty. This has led to many guesses. Was Cheops really buried here, or did the pyramid serve another purpose? In recent years, new scanning technologies have revealed hidden voids inside that may represent unsolved halls or secret passages. There is an opinion among researchers and mystics that the Great Pyramid could have been not only a tomb, but also a temple of knowledge, or even an energy device. Too many coincidences indicate that its creators had special knowledge in astronomy, physics, and geometry. Some even suggest that the construction of the pyramid is associated with contact with forces beyond human capabilities. Legends also speak of a curse. According to popular belief, anyone who disturbs the pyramid will bring misfortune upon themselves. These stories were revived in the early 20th century, when archaeologists who discovered tombs in Egypt died under mysterious circumstances. Although scientists attribute this to infections and the conditions in the tombs, the idea of an ancient curse has become firmly entrenched in the popular imagination. Today, the Pyramid of Cheops remains the greatest mystery of architecture. It has survived empires, catastrophes, and wars, but its secrets are still hidden behind massive stone blocks. And perhaps this is what makes it truly eternal, because everyone who stands at its foot understands that before him is not just a monument of antiquity, but a message from the past, the meaning of which we are still unable to decipher. Angkor Wat. In the very heart of Cambodia, among the humid jungles and fogs, there is a temple complex that still evokes admiration and awe. Angkor Wat is the largest religious building on the planet, built in the 12th century. Its scale is astounding. The area of the complex reaches more than 200 hectares, and the central towers rise like stone mountains reflected in the quiet waters of artificial ponds. But the more we study Angkor, the more questions it raises. The first thing that strikes you is the architecture. The temples are built with incredible precision and decorated with thousands of bas reliefs that depict scenes from Hindu myths, celestial Apsara dancers, and mysterious creatures. The bas reliefs stretch for tens of kilometers, creating the impression that every stone here was part of a single plan. But who could organize such a grandiose construction in the conditions of medieval Southeast Asia? Even taking into account the developed culture of the Khmer Empire, this seems almost impossible. The second mystery is the location of the complex. Angkor Wat is perfectly oriented to the cardinal points. Moreover, researchers have discovered that the temples are built in accordance with the position of the constellations, and the layout of the entire city reflects the cosmic universe described in Hindu texts. The central tower symbolizes the sacred Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe, and the surrounding buildings and moats repeat the structure of the heavenly and earthly spheres. It seems as if the builders had knowledge not only of religious symbols, but also of deep astronomical laws. But it is not only the architecture that holds secrets. There are many hypotheses about why Angkor Wat was created. Some consider it a temple dedicated to the god Vishnu. Others, a tomb where rulers sought to find eternal life by connecting with the divine. There are also bolder versions. Some researchers are sure that the temple complex was a place where rituals related to the energies of the earth were held, and the special layout creates a kind of energy field. Over time, Angkor was abandoned. The Khmer Empire declined, and the jungle slowly swallowed up the once majestic structures. In the 19th century, European travelers, making their way through the undergrowth, seem to have discovered a lost world. Their descriptions of temples covered in tropical greenery and entwined with the roots of giant trees shook the imagination of the world. There are many legends associated with Angkor Wat. Locals said that it was built by the gods in one night. Others claimed that the temple arose thanks to magic or the help of supernatural beings. These legends only strengthened the mystical aura around the complex, turning it into something more than just a historical monument. Today, Angkor Wat is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thousands of tourists come here to see how the sunrise paints the towers golden and reflects them in the water, creating the illusion of another world. But even among the crowds of visitors, there is a special silence and power. It seems that the temples continue to hold secrets that humanity has yet to unravel. Angkor Wat is more than just stones and bas-reliefs. It is a reminder that ancient civilizations were able to create something that connects earth and sky, people and gods. And as long as its secrets remain hidden, it will continue to live as one of the most mystical monuments on the planet. Teotihuacan, 40 kilometers from Mexico City, lies an ancient city that was once one of the most majestic in the world, but the name of its creators still remains a mystery. Teotihuacan, the place where the gods are born, impresses with its scale and mysteries, of which there are hardly fewer than in the Egyptian pyramids or Machu Picchu. The central artery of the city is the so-called Road of the Dead. Temples and platforms rise on both sides, and the main dominants are two grand pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. The first reaches 65 meters in height and is second only to the Great Pyramid of Cheops. The second, although smaller in size, amazes with its precise orientation and connection with astronomical cycles. Scientists still debate who built Teotihuacan. When the city fell into disrepair and was abandoned in the 6th century, the Aztecs found its ruins and were so amazed by its grandeur that they declared it the birthplace of the gods. But archaeological evidence suggests that the city existed long before them and may have been built by an unknown culture whose name has disappeared from history. The construction technologies are astonishing. Huge stone blocks, perfectly leveled terraces, and a complex system of underground passages indicate the highest level of knowledge. Recent research has shown that beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent is a network of tunnels where archaeologists have found hundreds of ritual artifacts, including mysterious metal balls coated with pyrite. Some researchers suggest that they may have symbolized celestial bodies, and that the underground structure itself was a model of the cosmos. The city's layout is no less mysterious. It was built with such precision that its main structures coincide with the positions of certain star constellations. Some see this as proof that the ancient inhabitants had deep astronomical knowledge. Others go even further and claim that Teotihuacan was created as a cosmological map, a reflection of the heavenly order on Earth. There is also a mystical side. Legends claim that sacrifices were made here to ensure balance between humans and gods. Archaeologists have indeed found the remains of victims buried with weapons and jewelry. Perhaps for the city's builders, death was not the end but part of a cosmic cycle, and that is why the city received its grim name. But the main question remains: why was such a majestic center of civilization suddenly abandoned? Some believe that it was due to internal conflicts and uprisings. Others are sure that the cause was climate catastrophes. But there are also hypotheses about darker forces that forced people to leave the city, as if it ceased to be a place of power and turned into a place of danger. Today, Teotihuacan remains one of the main mysteries of Central America. Its stone giants, facing the sky, remind us that ancient peoples knew much more about the stars and the laws of the universe than we are accustomed to thinking. And perhaps that is why this city is still shrouded in legends that haunt us. Petra, hidden among the red rocks of the Jordanian desert, is a city that seems to have been carved by the gods themselves. Petra, the capital of the ancient Nabatean people, still amazes with its beauty and mystery. You can get there through the narrow canyon Sec, where high sheer walls seem to compress the space, and in front of you suddenly opens a majestic facade carved directly into the stone. This appearance, known as the Treasury, has become a symbol of Petra, and at the same time its main secret. Historians believe that Petra was founded around the 6th century BC. The Nabateans, its creators, were skilled traders who controlled the caravan routes that linked Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. But where they got the knowledge and technology to carve an entire city out of the rocks remains a mystery. The grandiose facades, columns, and temples create the impression that this is the work not of people, but of a higher power. Petra's main feature is its secrecy. For centuries, the city remained unknown to the outside world. After the Nabatean kingdom disappeared, Petra gradually became deserted and became a legend until European travelers rediscovered it in the 19th century. But by then, almost nothing remained about its inhabitants, their faith, and culture. The huge number of structures raises questions. Why was it necessary to create hundreds of temples, tombs, and altars right in the stone massifs? Many researchers believe that Petra was not only the capital of trade, but also a sacred city. Rituals associated with the worship of the sun, stars, and forces of nature could have taken place here. And some buildings are oriented so precisely that they were probably used for astronomical observations. The treasury also holds no fewer secrets, a building with a huge facade decorated with columns and bas-reliefs. According to local legends, untold riches were allegedly stored inside. But archaeologists who examined the building did not find any treasures. However, there is still an opinion that the treasury could have been something more than just a tomb. Some are sure that it was a temple or even a gate to another world. Petra is also associated with mystical legends. Local residents claimed that strange sounds could be heard from the depths of the rocks at night, as if someone still lived in these ruins. There were beliefs about a curse. Whoever dared to destroy the stone facades or disturb the ancient tombs would bring trouble. These legends did not hinder researchers, but each expedition left new mysteries, not answers. Today, Petra is one of the wonders of the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thousands of tourists pass through the Siq every day to see the red rocks glow in the rays of the rising sun. But despite all the research, the feeling remains the same. This is not just an ancient city, but a message from the past that we still do not fully understand. Petra continues to hold secrets. Who created this stone labyrinth, and why? Why did the civilization that built such a grandiose center disappear without a trace? And do the walls carved into the rock hide a history that could change our understanding of the ancient world? Göbekli Tepe. In the hills of southeastern Turkey, archaeologists have discovered what many are calling humanity's oldest sacred site. Göbekli Tepe is a site more than 11,000 years old that completely changes our understanding of history. Before its discovery, it was thought that humans in the hunter-gatherer era were unable to build complex structures, lacked the necessary knowledge and organization. But the stone circles of Göbekli Tepe prove the opposite. Long before the appearance of the first cities and writing, people were already creating sacred complexes filled with symbols and secrets. The main feature of this place is the giant T-shaped stone pillars located in a circle. Some of them reach 5 meters in height and weigh tens of tons. Their surface is decorated with mysterious bas-reliefs, animals, birds, snakes, abstract patterns. Researchers are still debating the meaning of these images. Were they part of the mythology of ancient tribes, a reflection of their ideas about the spirit world, or a kind of universal language that passed on knowledge from generation to generation? Another mystery is how these pillars ended up here in the first place. People of that time did not have metal tools, did not know the wheel, did not use draft animals. How did they manage to process and move such massive stones? Some archaeologists believe that this is the result of incredible collective efforts. But there are those who are sure that we are dealing with something more than just physical labor. No less surprising is that Göbekli Tepe was deliberately covered with earth about 1,000 years after its construction. Who did this and why remains a mystery. Perhaps the builders thought that the complex's mission was accomplished and decided to hide it from future generations. Or maybe they were afraid of something related to the rituals that were performed here. Scientists call Göbekli Tepe the first temple of mankind. But what exactly happened here remains unclear. Perhaps it was a meeting place for priests who performed sacrifices, appealing to invisible forces. Perhaps rituals related to astronomical cycles were held here. Some believe that the stone circles were a kind of observatory where the movement of the stars and the sun could be tracked. There are even hypotheses that the complex reflects a map of the sky, and its builders had a much deeper knowledge of space than we are accustomed to thinking. Local legends add even more mystery. According to legends, this place is associated with gods who once descended to Earth to teach people the basics of civilization. And although archaeology prefers to avoid such interpretations, the very scale and unusualness of Göbekli Tepe leaves room for the most daring hypotheses. Today, Göbekli Tepe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Tourists and researchers come here from all over the world to walk among the stone circles and feel the touch of the very origins of human culture. But each visit only increases the sense of mystery, as if these are not just ruins, but a door to the past through which we have barely lifted the curtain. Göbekli Tepe remains a place that changes history. It shows that we underestimate ancient people, that their knowledge and beliefs may have been much deeper than conventional science suggests. But its true purpose remains hidden, and perhaps that is its greatest mystery. Sacsayhuaman. On the outskirts of the ancient city of Cusco, once the capital of the Inca Empire, stands a fortress whose origins and purpose are still the subject of debate. Sacsayhuaman is more than just ruins. It is a place where giant stone blocks have been assembled with such precision that even modern engineers look at them in amazement. The walls of the fortress are built of colossal stones, some of which weigh more than 100 tons. Their surfaces are perfectly matched to each other, while the stones have complex polygonal shapes. It is impossible to insert even a knife blade between them. Moreover, the Incas did not use cement or lime, only masterful stone processing. How exactly they achieved such precision is a mystery that science has not yet solved. There are many theories. Some researchers believe that the Incas had a special technique for polishing stone using sand and water. Others suggest that they used wooden structures and ropes to move the blocks. But how can we explain the fact that such technologies allowed them to build walls that withstood more than one powerful earthquake? After all, even modern buildings in these areas often collapse, but Sacsayhuaman has stood for centuries. The layout of the complex is no less interesting. Its walls are built in the form of jagged lines, forming something like giant lightning bolts. Scientists believe that this could have had a sacred meaning. In the Inca culture, lightning was considered a manifestation of divine power, and perhaps the fortress was not only a defensive structure, but also a temple associated with the worship of heavenly forces. There is a version that Sacsayhuaman was part of the ritual center of Cusco. In this theory, the fortress becomes an arena for ceremonies, where priests made sacrifices to the gods of the sun and earth. This is supported by the finds of sacrificial altars and traces of ancient rituals. But at the same time, many researchers are sure that Sacsayhuaman had military significance, protecting the capital of the empire from enemies. Local legends add even more mysticism. It is believed that the giant stones were brought here not by people, but by mythical birds or gods with supernatural powers. There are also stories that the Incas knew the secrets of liquid stone, a substance that could soften rock, making it as pliable as clay. Such stories sound fantastic, but they only emphasize the sense of mystery surrounding this place. When the Spaniards arrived in Cusco, they were amazed by the grandeur of Sacsayhuaman. They did not even believe that the Incas could have built it, and attributed its origin to ancient giants. Some of the stones were later used by the conquerors to build their own buildings, but the most massive blocks remained in place as if timeless. Today, Sacsayhuaman is not just an archaeological site. It is a place of power where thousands of people come during the Inti Raymi festival, a sun festival that dates back to the Inca tradition. Here you can feel a special energy. The ancient walls seem to radiate power and mystery, conveying the echo of a bygone civilization. Sacsayhuaman remains a silent reminder that ancient cultures knew far more about construction, energy, and nature than we realize. It stands as a challenge to our understanding, and every stone within its walls holds a story we are still trying to unravel. Lalibela. In the highlands of northern Ethiopia, Among the rugged red cliffs lies a city that is rightly called the New Jerusalem. Lalibela is famous for its unique complex of stone temples, built not on the surface of the earth, but deep inside the rock massifs. These buildings were not built in the usual sense of the word. They were as if liberated from a monolithic stone, cutting out all the unnecessary. The architecture of Lalibela still amazes the imagination. Here you can see churches, monasteries, and passages connected by a labyrinth of tunnels, each detail of which is executed with amazing precision. The main mystery is how people of the 12th century managed to create such a miracle. According to legend, Lalibela was founded by an emperor of the same name who received a vision. In this vision, angels showed him a city that could rival Jerusalem, so that believers could worship God without leaving Africa. According to legend, the heavenly powers themselves took part in the construction. Masters worked during the day, and angels continued their work at night. Perhaps this is why the construction process, according to historical records, took an incredibly short time, only a few decades. But even if we leave the legends aside, the construction technology raises many questions. Stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons were not moved or laid. They were carefully cut out of the monolithic rock from top to bottom, forming roofs, walls, and interiors right on the spot. There could be no mistake. One wrong move, and the entire structure would collapse. However, the craftsmen managed so well that the temples have stood for 8 centuries, preserving not only their shape, but also the elegance of their details. One of the most impressive temples in Lalibela is the Church of St. George. Its shape, a giant Greek cross, is visible only from above. It seems to go into the ground, completely hidden in the depths of the rock, and creates the feeling that this is not a human construction, but a portal between worlds. When tourists first see the temple, they feel as if they are standing in front of something supernatural, created by hands that know a secret that is lost to us. The interiors of the churches are also amazing. Inside you can see carved columns, arches, domes, and icons, many of which have survived to this day. Narrow tunnels connect the temples, creating an atmosphere of an underground city, full of silence and mysticism. It is hard to believe that all this was created in the era when most European cities were just building their first Gothic cathedrals. The symbolism of Lalibela raises no fewer questions. The complex is divided into 2 parts, connected by a tunnel symbolizing the Jordan River. One group of temples is dedicated to the heavenly powers, the other to the earthly. Thus, the entire city becomes a map of the universe, where every step has a spiritual meaning. This is not just architecture, but a sacred metaphor embodied in stone. Archaeologists and historians are still arguing about where the craftsmen got their skills from. Some believe that they were based on the traditions of the ancient axe builders, who knew how to build obelisks and stone structures. Others are sure that Lalibela's technologies are unique and have no analogs. There are even hypotheses about the influence of Eastern architectural schools or lost knowledge that has come down from ancient times. Locals, however, have never doubted the city's divine origin. For them, Lalibela is a place of power, where the earth touches the sky. Many pilgrims walk tens of kilometers barefoot to worship in these temples. The city's atmosphere still retains a sense of sacred silence. Here, among the carved stone walls, prayer sounds especially sincere and profound. Today, Lalibela is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Tourists and researchers come here from all over the world to see this wonder with their own eyes. But the more they study it, the more questions arise. How did people in the 12th century create such complex structures? How did they manage to maintain their integrity over the centuries, despite earthquakes and erosion? Why did the emperor's vision emerge here, which became the basis for construction? There is a theory that Lalibela contains not only religious knowledge, but also hidden knowledge. Some researchers believe that the layout of the temples reflects the sky and stars, like the Egyptian pyramids. Others see in it a hint of ancient geometric principles lost in Europe but preserved in the heart of Africa. Lalibela remains a mystery that combines legends and facts. For some, it is a miracle of human genius. For others, proof of the intervention of higher powers. But one thing is clear: standing in the shadow of stone crosses and arches, you feel that in front of you is not just architecture, but a message left in stone for future generations. A message about faith, about mystery, and about the eternal connection between earth and sky. The Oracle at Delphi, on the slopes of Mount Parnassus in central Greece, among olive groves and stone terraces, once stood one of the most mysterious temples of the ancient world. Here, in the sanctuary of Apollo at Delphi, words were spoken that could change the fate of states and empires. The Oracle of Delphi was considered the voice of God, and kings, military leaders, and ordinary people turned to it, seeking answers to questions on which their lives depended. But it still remains a mystery how exactly the prophecies were born, which for centuries kept the entire ancient world in suspense. According to legend, the place for the sanctuary was chosen by the god Apollo himself. At first, the huge snake python lived here, the guardian of the ancient cave where the underground forces fought. Apollo killed the monster with his arrow and founded the temple, making it the center of his cult. Since then, Delphi has been considered the navel of the earth, the point connecting the heavens and the underworld. In the center of the temple, there was a special place, the Adyton, a sacred room where no one except the priestess Pythia could enter. It was believed that it was there that she entered a state of trance and transmitted the words of the god. The Pythia sat on a tripod over a crack in the ground from which strange vapors rose. Under their influence and accompanied by ritual chants and music, she began to speak in mysterious phrases. The priests translated these words into prophecies, which became known to those who came for advice. Contemporaries perceived this as a miracle. For the Greeks, the Pythia really was the voice of Apollo. But even today, scholars argue about what exactly happened at Delphi. In the 20th century, geologists discovered that there were cracks in the Earth's crust beneath the temple, and that it was there that gases containing ethylene were released, a substance that can cause a state of altered consciousness. Perhaps it was these fumes that helped the Pythia to enter a trance, creating a sense of communication with divine forces. The Delphic oracle's prophecies were full of riddles and ambiguities. When people came to the Pythia for advice, her words could often be interpreted in different ways. One of the most famous examples is associated with King Croesus. He asked whether he should start a war with Persia, and was told, "If you cross the river, you will destroy a great kingdom." Encouraged by the prophecy, Croesus set out on a campaign, but it was his own kingdom that was destroyed. Such stories show that the oracle's words were always open to interpretation, which only increased their mystical power. But where did this knowledge come from? Some scholars believe that the priestesses had a deep understanding of politics and were able to interpret events based on observation. Others believe that there was something more at work here, a connection to the subconscious, collective memory, or even what the ancients considered the voice of the gods. The oracle played a huge role in the life of ancient Greece. Decisions about wars and alliances, about building temples and founding colonies, were often made only after consulting with the Pythia. Even the famous Battle of Salamis, which determined the outcome of the Greco-Persian Wars, was inspired by the prophecy from Delphi. Thus, the oracle became not just a religious phenomenon, but also an important political instrument, influencing the fate of entire civilizations. Over time, the importance of the Delphic oracle began to fade. Christianity replaced the ancient cults, and the Temple of Apollo gradually fell into disrepair. But the memory of it lived on for centuries. Even today, when we stand among the ruins and look at the stone columns, it seems that the air retains the echo of those voices that once determined the future. For modern man, the oracle remains a mystery. Was it a phenomenon of the human psyche, a manifestation of ancient knowledge, or a real connection with something supernatural? There is no answer, But it is this mystery that makes Delphi a special place where reality and myth intertwine into a single whole. The Delphic oracle is a symbol of the fact that people have always sought to look beyond the visible, to understand what awaits them ahead. And perhaps that is why its mystery lives on to this day, forcing us to ask, is there a boundary between the human mind and the voice of eternity? Burkhan Khaldun and the tomb of Genghis Khan. In the vast steppes of Mongolia, amid the winds that carry the scent of dry grass and dusty roads, rises Mount Burkhan Khaldun. For nomadic tribes, it has always been a sacred place, a symbol of strength and eternity. But for historians and archaeologists, this mountain is the key to one of humanity's greatest mysteries, the burial place of Genghis Khan, the man whose name forever changed the course of world history. Genghis Khan died in 1227 during a military campaign. According to legend, his body was brought to the heart of Mongolia and buried in absolute secrecy. To hide the route, the escorting detachment allegedly killed everyone they met. There are versions that even the warriors who took part in the burial were executed, and thousands of horses were driven over the grave to erase all traces. Local legends say that after this, by order of the heirs, a dense forest was planted on the burial site so that no one could find the sacred mound. Why did such a great ruler wish to be buried in obscurity? Perhaps it had to do with his ideas about the afterlife. For Mongolian nomads, the cult of the land and ancestors was more important than any material wealth. Genghis Khan may have wanted his peace to be undisturbed and for his spirit to forever merge with the land that gave him strength. But there is another version. The tomb could have contained countless treasures collected during campaigns. If so, the desire to hide the grave is explained by fear of robbers. Historians suggest that the burial place is located right next to Mount Burkhan Khaldun, which Genghis Khan himself considered sacred. The secret history of the Mongols mentions that he climbed here many times to pray to the heavens and make sacrifices. This mountain became not only a symbol of his faith, but also perhaps his final resting place. Many expeditions have tried to find the tomb. Soviet researchers, American archaeologists, Japanese scientists, all have looked for traces of the great leader. Satellite images, ground-penetrating radars, even crowdsourcing projects with thousands of volunteers analyzing photographs of the area have been used. But no study has given a definitive result. Moreover, local residents oppose the excavations, believing that disturbing the tomb of Genghis Khan would bring a curse. There are also dark legends connected with this. They say that all expeditions that tried to get closer to the secret were haunted by misfortunes, from sudden illnesses of participants to accidents and mysterious failures of equipment. For the Mongols, this is only confirmation that the spirit of Genghis Khan guards his eternal refuge and will not allow anyone to disturb his peace. Interestingly, the topic of Genghis Khan's burial is still surrounded by taboo in Mongolian culture. The country's authorities prohibit large-scale excavations in the supposed locations of his grave. The official position is simple. The main thing is not the burial place, but the legacy of the great leader, which lives in the hearts of people. However, for researchers, this mystery remains an obsession, because if the tomb is found, it could become the greatest archaeological discovery of the 21st century. What could be hidden inside? In addition to the supposed treasures, scientists hope to find artifacts that will help them understand how Genghis Khan's vast empire lived and was ruled. Perhaps there are ancient scrolls, weapons, armor, or even evidence of contacts with other cultures that could change our understanding of history. But while this mystery remains closed, Mount Burkhan Khaldun continues to rise above the steppe, like the keeper of a great secret. Every year, interest in the tomb does not fade. For some, it is an archaeological challenge. For others, a sacred place that cannot be touched. But in any case, its mystery lives and will live until the truth is revealed. And perhaps this is where its power lies. Genghis Khan sought power over the entire world during his life, and after his death, his name became a symbol of a mystery that is not subject to time. Today, Bergen-Kelden is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Pilgrims come here to lay offerings and honor their ancestors. For them, it is not just a mountain, but the center of Mongolia's spiritual power. And while people look at its peaks, hidden in the clouds, they feel that the Great Khan is still nearby, guarding his people and his secret. Chichen Itza and the Pyramid of Kukulkan. On the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, amidst dense tropical forests, stands the ancient city of Chichen Itza, one of the most mysterious places of the Mayan civilization. Its heart is the Pyramid of Kukulkan, also called El Castillo. This grandiose step structure still evokes admiration for its architectural precision and mystical effects, which scientists are only gradually beginning to explain. The Pyramid of Kukulkan is not just a temple, it is a monumental calendar machine embodying the Mayas' profound knowledge of time and space. Each of the 4 sides of the pyramid has 91 steps, and together with the upper platform, their number is 365, the number of days in a year. Such precision shows that the Mayan priests possessed unique astronomical knowledge comparable to modern observations. The biggest mystery is a phenomenon that occurs twice a year, on the days of the spring and autumn equinoxes. In the rays of the setting sun, a shadow appears on the steps of the pyramid, which forms the silhouette of a snake, slowly sliding down the slope to a stone head installed at the base. This effect creates the impression that the serpent god Kukulkan himself comes to life to connect heaven and earth. For the Maya, this was a sacred moment, a confirmation of the connection of people with the gods and the cycles of time with nature. But how did the ancient architects achieve such an effect? Modern researchers believe that the pyramid was built taking into account the exact position of the sun and the angles of inclination. However, it remains unclear how the Maya were able to make such complex calculations without the instruments and technology available today. Some historians believe that this knowledge was passed down from generation to generation within the priestly traditions. Others hypothesize that the Maya had a deeper understanding of astronomy than is commonly believed. In addition to the calendar and solar phenomena, Chichen Itza is known for its acoustic mysteries. If you clap your hands at the foot of the pyramid, the sound bounces off the steps and returns as an echo, reminiscent of the cry of the sacred Quetzal bird. This effect was probably used during rituals, enhancing the impression of divine presence. This is unlikely to be a coincidence. The architects apparently deliberately gave the structure a special acoustic shape. But Chichen Itza is more than just a pyramid. There were ball courts, temples, observatories, and cenotes, natural wells where sacrifices were made. Archaeologists have found human remains and precious objects at their bottom, indicating that the city was the center of religious life associated with the cult of water and the underworld. There are many theories about why the Mayans built Chichen Itza. For some, it was a capital, a center of political power. For others, it was a sacred city where time and space were united in rituals. But whatever the truth, one thing is clear. The Pyramid of Kukulkan embodied knowledge that remains a mystery to this day. Modern archaeologists have discovered with the help of ground-penetrating radar that there is another, more ancient structure under the pyramid. Some believe that it could have been built before the Mayan civilization. Moreover, research has shown that the entire pyramid stands on a huge underground cavern filled with water. Perhaps this place was considered a sacred portal to the world of gods and spirits. Local legends add even more mysticism to the complex. They say that at night you can hear the whispers of ancestors and see glowing silhouettes around the pyramid. For many residents of Yucatan, Chichen Itza still remains a place of power, where they come not for the tourists, but for communication with the invisible. Today, Chichen Itza is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new wonders of the world. Millions of tourists come here to see the Kukulkan serpent come to life during the equinoxes. But behind the beauty lies a sense of mystery. The pyramid seems to hold knowledge about time, space, and life itself that humanity has yet to fully comprehend. Chichen Itza and the Pyramid of Kukulkan remain a symbol of ancient civilizations possessing knowledge beyond the ordinary. Perhaps these stones hold the key to understanding how people of the past saw the universe and their place in it. Mont Saint-Michel. Off the coast of Normandy, where the Atlantic meets the cold winds, stands a grandiose abbey that has become one of the most mystical shrines in Europe. Mont Saint-Michel is an island fortress surrounded by water and tides that can turn a sandbank into an impregnable seawall in a matter of hours. Its silhouette, disappearing into the clouds, resembles a mirage or a castle from a legend. But behind the beauty lies a history full of mysteries, fears, and legends. According to legend, the abbey owes its existence to a miracle. In the 8th century, the Archangel Michael appeared to the Bishop of Avranches, Saint Aubert, and ordered him to build a church on a rock overlooking the sea. The bishop initially doubted, and then the archangel, to prove his will, touched his head with a fiery finger, leaving a dent in the bone. This relic is still kept in Avranches and is considered evidence of heavenly command. The abbey took centuries to build. It combines Romanesque and Gothic styles, and its towers, arches, and walls seem to grow out of the rock, merging with it into a single whole. All this creates the impression that Mont Saint-Michel was not built by people, but grew by itself, like a stone flower in the middle of the ocean. The main mystery of the island is related to its unique location. The tides in this area are among the highest in Europe. The water rises and recedes so quickly that in a few hours it can completely isolate the island from the mainland, or, conversely, connect it to the mainland. For medieval pilgrims, it was a symbol of the transition between worlds, earthly and heavenly. The path to the abbey itself was perceived as a spiritual test, where each step on the shifting sands meant a struggle for the salvation of the soul. But Mont Saint-Michel has always been a fortress as well as a place of prayer. Its walls have survived sieges, wars, and destruction. During the 100 Years' War, the abbey withstood numerous attacks by the English and became a symbol of unwavering faith. Later, during the French Revolution, it was turned into a prison where prisoners languished, and this left an even darker mark on the walls. There are many legends associated with Mont Saint-Michel. It is said that in its dungeons you can still hear the footsteps of monks who passed away centuries ago. Locals tell stories of ghostly horsemen appearing on the coast in the fog, and some pilgrims claim to have felt an unusual energy here, as if the island itself is testing everyone who approaches it. Scientists and historians note that the abbey is located in a special place, which in ancient times could be perceived as a place of power. Some researchers believe that the rock on which Mont Saint-Michel stands was a pagan sanctuary even before the advent of Christianity. Perhaps it was not by chance that Archangel Michael appeared here. In the Middle Ages, his cult was often associated with places where pagan beliefs were intertwined with the new religion. The architectural symbolism also attracts special attention. The upper levels of the abbey are directed towards the sky, as if pointing the way to God, while the lower dungeons are reminiscent of the world of shadows and temptations. This combination of sky and earth, light and darkness, creates the feeling that the complex itself is a model of the universe, where each level reflects a different plane of existence. Today, Mont Saint-Michel is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Millions of tourists and pilgrims come here every year to walk the narrow streets, climb to the abbey, and watch the sea rapidly encircle the island. But despite the crowds of visitors, the place retains an aura of mystery. Especially at night, when the cliffs and towers are immersed in fog, Mont Saint-Michel seems ghostly, as if it exists in two worlds at once, ours and the other world. The island continues to keep its secrets. Some see it as a symbol of divine power, others as a reminder of the fragility of human life in the face of time and nature. but for everyone, it remains a place where legend and reality are so closely intertwined that they cannot be separated. Mont Saint-Michel is more than just an architectural marvel. It is a message from the past, a reminder that faith, fear, and the desire for eternity can create structures that are timeless. And as long as its towers are reflected in the tidal waters, it will remain one of Europe's most mystical mysteries. Chartres Cathedral. In the center of the small French town of Chartres, just 80 kilometers from Paris, stands a majestic Gothic cathedral, which for more than 8 centuries has amazed not only with its beauty, but also with its secrets. Chartres Cathedral. Notre Dame is one of the most famous monuments of medieval architecture, but many believe that it holds much more than just religious relics. Its proportions, stained glass windows, and symbolism make one wonder. Is this building a kind of encrypted message left to posterity? The first thing that strikes everyone who sees the cathedral for the first time is its height and slenderness. The towers seem to reach for the sky, and the facade is decorated with many figures, each of which has a special meaning. But the main wonder of Chartres is hidden inside. These are stained glass windows, which are still considered among the most perfect in the world. The blue color, called chartres, is impossible to reproduce even with modern technology. Its deep shade seems to absorb light and simultaneously emit it, creating the impression that the windows are filled with a living glow. Where the medieval masters knew the secret of such glass is still a mystery. A special place in the cathedral is occupied by the famous labyrinth, laid out directly on the floor of the central nave. Its diameter exceeds 12 meters, and it is a complex path leading to the center. In the Middle Ages, pilgrims walked through this labyrinth on their knees, believing that it symbolized a spiritual journey to God. But many researchers see a much deeper meaning in it. Some are sure that the labyrinth is connected with ancient mystical traditions and the symbolism of space. Others believe that it could serve as a kind of meditation tool and even a way to achieve an altered state of consciousness. Another mystery is the location of the cathedral. Modern research shows that Chartres Cathedral stands on the site of an ancient pagan sanctuary. Even before the arrival of Christians, the earth and a female deity were worshipped here, who, according to legend, granted fertility to people. Archaeologists have found traces of ancient underground chambers, and local legends claim that there was a spring of living water at this site. Perhaps this is why the cathedral was built here. Christianity imposed its symbols on a much more ancient place of power. No less controversial is the relic kept in Chartres, the so-called Holy Shirt of the Virgin Mary. According to legend, this is the garment that Mary wore on the day of Christ's birth. During the Crusades, this relic made Chartres an important pilgrimage center. But there are many doubts surrounding it. Some consider it authentic, others are sure that it is a later forgery. In any case, the presence of the relic has strengthened the mystical status of the cathedral. In the architecture of Chartres, researchers find numerous examples of sacred geometry. The proportions of the building correspond to the golden section, and the arrangement of the towers and windows is linked to astronomical cycles. Some even claim that the cathedral is a stone model of the universe, where every detail reflects a certain order of the universe. This idea is reinforced by the fact that the stained glass windows depict scenes not only from the Bible, but also from ancient myths, which was rare for medieval art. There is also a bolder version that Chartres Cathedral was built under the influence of the Templars, a knightly order known for its secret knowledge. According to this theory, the cathedral contains a code that was supposed to pass on lost truths about man and the universe to future generations. The labyrinth, stained glass windows, and hidden symbols and sculptures could be part of this secret system. But Chartres Cathedral is not only the mysteries of the past, but also a special atmosphere that is felt by everyone who enters its walls. Many pilgrims and tourists claim that they feel unusual calm and strength here. The light passing through the stained glass creates the impression that the space itself is filled with a mystical glow that makes you forget about time. Today, Chartres Cathedral is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and remains not only a masterpiece of Gothic architecture, but also a place where legend, faith, and science intertwine. For some, it is a symbol of medieval Christianity. For others, a monument to ancient traditions that preserved secret knowledge. But for everyone, it remains a mystery that cannot be fully solved. Chartres Cathedral reminds us that architecture can be more than just stone and glass. It can be the language in which the past speaks to the future. And perhaps that is why Chartres continues to attract those who seek not only beauty, but also the truth hidden in the depths of time. Chulpa Silustani. On the shores of Lake Humayo in Bolivia rise strange stone towers, which the locals call chulpas. They are cylindrical structures up to 12 meters high, built from perfectly fitted blocks. Silustani is one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in South America, and its towers still raise questions among scientists, archaeologists, and mystics. The main thing that amazes is the mastery of the masonry. The huge stone blocks are cut and fitted to each other with such precision that it is impossible to push even a knife blade between them. Moreover, the shape of the towers is unusual. They widen upwards, which completely contradicts the laws of conventional architecture. Modern engineers admit that such a design requires special knowledge, especially considering that the chulpas were built hundreds of years before the arrival of the Incas. According to the official version, chulpas served as burial structures. Representatives of the nobility, priests, and warriors were buried here. But it remains unclear why it was necessary to build such grandiose towers for these purposes. Some chulpas contained mummies buried in the fetal position, as well as pottery, jewelry, and weapons. All of this points to an ancestor cult where death was not perceived as an end, but a transition to another world. But the symbolism of the chulpas is much deeper. Many of them are oriented toward certain points on the horizon, associated with the movement of the sun and moon. This suggests that the towers could also perform an astronomical function, serving as observatories or calendars. It is no coincidence that local legends associate them with the gods of heaven and earth, who supposedly passed on knowledge of the cycles of nature to people. Another mystery is the construction technology. The stones from which the towers are built are processed so smoothly that their surface resembles modern machine processing. How did the ancient builders, without iron tools, achieve such a result? Some researchers suggest that special methods of heating and cooling the rock, or even substances capable of softening the stone, were used. These versions sound fantastic, but the fact remains. The quality of the masonry surpasses many modern technologies. Local myths give the chulpas a mystical aura. Residents of the surrounding villages believe that the towers are guarded by the spirits of their ancestors, and that it is dangerous to approach them at night. There is a belief that during the dark hours of the day, glowing lights can be seen around Silustani, as if the souls of the dead leave the towers and make their eternal circle above the lake. Some eyewitnesses claim to have felt the cold breath of the wind inside the chulpas, even when there was silence outside. Interestingly, the Incas who came here later admired the skill of their predecessors. They tried to repeat similar masonry, but their constructions were significantly inferior in quality. This further reinforces the feeling that the chulpas were created by a civilization whose knowledge disappeared long before the rise of the Inca Empire. Silustani is also surrounded by natural beauty, which in itself enhances the mystical atmosphere. Lake Humayo, like a mirror, reflects the towers and rocks, creating a feeling that the earth and sky merge. For many travelers, this place becomes a symbol of eternity, where the past and the present intertwine. Today, archaeologists continue to study Silustani, but the more finds appear, the more questions arise. Were the chulpas only tombs, or did they also perform a ritual and astronomical function? Why did the builders decide to erect such unique structures in this particular place? And most importantly, where did they get the knowledge to work with stone as if they possessed the technologies of the future? The Chulpas of Silustani remain silent witnesses of a mysterious civilization that disappeared long before the Incas. Perhaps the answers to the questions are hidden in the depths of these towers or in the legends passed down from generation to generation. But for now, we can only look at them with admiration and feel that these stone cylinders contain a secret that has yet to be revealed. 15 mysterious buildings on different continents have one thing in common. Each one defies time and our understanding of history. Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe, Chichen Itza and Lalibela, they all seem like bridges between worlds, testaments to knowledge and faith that we do not fully understand. Their builders have long since disappeared, but the stones continue to hold memories and secrets. Perhaps the solution will remain beyond the realm of science, or perhaps one day we will discover the key to these messages from the past. But for now, they remind us that human history is much deeper and more mysterious than we think.